this is the first lecture of the basics of transformer. So before entering into the basics of transformer, let us discuss why there is a need to study transformer. Actually, why transformer is needed in electrical engineering. So for first we have to know why we are using particular device called transformer in our system. So let us start why we are doing that. So for suppose assume we have a generating station at some place called let us name like NTPC generating station we have, and we have the load center which is called Hyderabad. The distance between two places is something around 300 kilometers. Let us assume that. And here at the generating station, we have a generator of 5 megawatt ampere or MVA, you can say, which is generating voltage at 13 kV or 11 kV or 33 kV. I mean, it depends upon the value of generator you are installing in this particular plant. So, for this particular case, I am assuming that my generator, whatever I have installed, it is having voltage rating of 13 kV and the apparent power rating is of 5 megawatt. And between these two places, we have transmission lines. uh, Usually we prefer three-phase transmission line. So assume these are the three-phase transmission lines R, Y, B. So what the thing is, here we are generating only 13 kV, but we have seen in the transmission lines like 220 kV, 440 kV, and even nowadays it is 765 kV also. So how there is a difference between generating voltage as well as the voltage that has been being transferred. The main difference that is caused by this particular device called transformer. So this is the main use of the transformer. But why we need to step up this 13 kV voltage to some hundreds of kilovolts? The reason is, if you have seen before knowing into the reason, I would like to tell like this is a transmission line. It has a voltage of 13 kV, and assume we can write current is equals to VA rating of the generator by the voltage rating of the generator. Here voltage and voltage gets cancelled and the ampere remains at the end. So amperes is nothing but the current. So I can make use of this particular formula, and I can find the current that is been coming out of this particular generator. So if I calculate the current, that is I is equals to 5 megawatt. Megawatt is nothing but 5 into 10 power 6, and I have said that 13 kilowatt is my generating voltage. So 13 into 10 power 3. So the value, whatever the value of I would be there, that would be in some kilo amperes. And we from very basics, like in the first year in the material science or somewhere in the subjects like engineering materials, we have learned that the or in the basics of network theory, we have seen that whatever the current carrying capacity of the conductor will be there, that will be depending upon the cross sectional area of the conductor. Cross sectional area is nothing but, in simpler terms, if I have to explain it, it is nothing but the width of the conductor. So the current carrying capacity for a given conductor depends upon the cross sectional areas. In our homes, if we observe cables that would be around less than 1 centimeters width, I mean 1 centimeter square cross sectional area. So this would be very less. Whatever the wires we usually see in our homes for domestic use, those cross sectional area will be very less. Very less in the sense it has a capacity of current carrying capacity of 6 amperes for usual uh, devices like TVs, refrigerators, etc. When coming to the AC, that is air conditioner, the cable of the particular air conditioner will be thicker when compared to the other normal domestic appliances, because the AC current rating is nothing but 16 amps. So when compared with 16 amps, this 6 amps is very small. So that is why the reason the cable size has been increased. So similarly, if you try to understand, like here here in the transmission lines, the current rating is in terms of kiloamperes. For 16 amps, you can assume how much the thickness of the air conditioner wire is. So for suppose if it is of a kilo amperes, you now you can assume how thicker the conductor would be. So this is why the reason, uh, if the conductor whatever we are using is of very thick, very high thicker, then the ultimate, if the conductor is thick, then the next effect that would be in on the weight. The weight of the conductor increases. If the weight of the conductor increases, then the supporting, whatever the supporting structures that are electrical poles, supporting structures have to be built very strongly. So this is why the reason we make use of one particular device called transformer. And the other reason some people will explain like, that is also correct reason, because here we are generating a power of 5 megawatt ampere, and we need to send this 5 megawatt without any loss, at least considering a 10% tolerance. If I have to say like 4.8 to 4.9 megawatts I need to send to the load center. So between this transmission will be there. And here then, in ideal case we don't assume any losses, but in practical case definitely losses will occur. Uh, these losses are nothing but your I square R losses. If the value of the current that is being carried by this transmission line is higher, then definitely loss would be higher. So we know that power can neither be created nor be destroyed. Uh, this is nothing but power, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can be transferred from one particular form to another particular form. Here we are making using of that same formula, and we are introducing a device called transformer. So whatever transformer has two windings. I'm just giving a external idea how a transformer works. It has two windings. One is primary and it is a secondary. So whatever the power input you will give here, that power input will be appeared across your output, that is nothing but P output. But as this is a device, this will also have this will have also some percentage loss, but this percentage loss is very less because transformer is a highly efficient device. It can uh, like it can from 95 to 99% of efficiency can be achieved by using the transformer. So what happens is, whatever the power input you are giving, that will be that can be appeared across this point. So here usually the transformers will be like step up or step down. So here if you give 13 kV, and depending upon the number of turns in the secondary, it can be stepped up to our requirement level. Assume here it is 220 kV. So here you are giving 13 kV and you are getting output as 220 kV. So what happens is, assume that here the power is 10 watts. This is just a reference number, not any based value. So this is assume 10 watts here, and here also the output should be 10 watts, because power can neither be created nor be destroyed. Whatever the power here is there, the power here I am appearing, because I am considering the loss as whatever the loss has been there, that has been neglected. So here, the what will be the current value? As we have power, actually P is equals to V into I cos phi in terms cos phi when we talk about alternating current. But let us, for simplification purpose, let us assume that power is equals to V into I. So here power is 10 watts, voltage is 13 kilowatts, and I. So here the I value is nothing but 10 by 13 kilowatt ampere. Similarly, now let us try to calculate the I2. Let this be I1. So if I calculate I2 here, P is equals to VI again, and power remains constant. Here voltage is 220 kV, that is 2 into 10 power 3. Here also 2 into 10 power 3, and I is nothing but now 10 by 220 into 10. power 3 amperes. Now if you see here, the current value is very less and here the current value is very high. So if the current value is very high, what happens is I square R losses increases. If I square R losses is increasing, then the heat will be developed, and due to heat development the resistance of the conductor will further rises, and this cumulative process goes on continuing. So at some particular point, due to this high I square loss, the conductor starts melting, that we called as a breaking of conductor. All this has been happening due to the because of high value of current, and there is a huge amount of loss also occurring here. For suppose if you use a transformer like this setup, the current value will be very minimal, and minimum value square will always be very much minimal. So here the loss is been decreasing and there is no concept of heat generated or dissipated throughout the transmission line. So this is the main reason. These two are the main reason. First one is the thickness, which will ultimately reduce the cost of the overlaying transmission lines, and the second one is the to compensate the losses or the heat developed by the conductors. So these are the primary reasons for implementing transformers in our electrical engineering. So coming to the let us try to see the definition. First of all, definition of a transformer. So definition states that transformer is a static device. You can say it as a static machine also, but I consider it as a static device because it doesn't has any rotating parts. So it is a static device that transfers electrical energy from one circuit to another circuit without any physical connection by means of magnetic field. And the main important thing you have to remember is here that all these things, that is transferring of electrical energy from one circuit to another electric circuit, is done by the without changing in the frequency. This could be one of your Viva questions. So remember that without change in frequency. And the other important is the magnetic field. So in order to understand transformer in a very descriptive manner, one should have a good idea about the magnetic field. So I will start with the basics of magnetic field in order to understand the transformer. So let me start with MMF. As you all know, EMF is responsible for movement of current in a conductor. Similarly, MMF, that is magnetomotive force. Magnetomotive force is responsible for the movement, is responsible for movement of flux in the core, you can say. And here the core will be movement of flux in core, and here the core will be of a magnetic material like iron or any other magnetic material. We give MMF is equals to N into I. This is a formula, and this can be in some other books you can find it is like H into L, where N is equals to number of turns. I mean, on the core, how many number of turns you are winding, that represents this N value, that is number of turns, and I, small I, is the current flowing through that particular turns. Current flowing through those turns. This is the one way of describing the MMF, and the other way is here H indicates the magnetic field intensity, or you can say it as magnetic strength. Magnetic field intensity, and L represents the core mean length. The I mean the whatever the length will be there of the core, that's mean length. Mean length is the effective area of the effective length of the core that is under the influence of the flux. Which flux? This flux. So ultimately I can tell like MMF is the responsible for motion of flux. EMF is responsible for motion of current. So this is the one thing we need to remember. MMF is the responsible for motion of flux. Now we have formula like flux, which is denoted by phi, is given by MMF upon reluctance. In the earlier formula we have seen MMF is nothing but number of turns into the current flowing through those turns by reluctance. In EMF case we have resistance, and here in the MMF case we have reluctance. Resistance is nothing but opposition force offered by the conductor to the current flowing through it. Similarly, reluctance is the opposition force offered by opposition force offered by core to the flux flowing through it. Simply you can say that whatever that opposes the flux is nothing but your reluctance value. So this is what reluctance. As current always chooses low resistance path, MMF also chooses low reluctance path for its movement. These are the comparison things you need to understand between current and the MMF. So reluctance is the property which opposes the flow of flux. In order to understand whole electrical machine subject, whether it might be induction machine or especially induction machine is nothing but induction motor and transformer, one must have a very good idea about these two rules. Those two, only one rule, sorry. That rule is nothing but right hand curl rule. In some books you can see same uh, rule with the different names like thumb rule, screw rule, etc. So I'll call it as a right hand curl rule. If you understand this right hand curl rule, you can easily understand how a transformer and how an EMF will be induced in the windings. Assume this is a conductor, current carrying conductor, which is carrying current I through it, and assume another conductor which is carrying current I in this direction. Now I'll write something like thumb represents current direction and curl represents magnetic line. Here also the same thing. The same thing applies here also. So now place your thumb according to the direction of this conductor, such that your thumb will be facing like this and your curl will be something like this. So if you see the PDF attached in the description, you can get a better picturization idea. If this is your if current represents your thumb direction, then whatever the remaining all finger, assume like you are holding a pen in your hand, and through that pen across your remember that you are holding the pen in your right hand, and whatever the current is been flowing through that pen is in the direction of your thumb. Now whatever the remaining four fingers are there, which are surrounding the conductor, are nothing but your magnetic lines, which is nothing but four fingers is nothing but the remaining curl, we can say. So those are indicating magnetic lines, and the thumb direction is indicating the current direction. So magnetic lines are coming out of the out are like they are coming from the top position of the pen. So that whatever the usually in magnet, assume this is a magnet with north and south pole. The flux lines will be flowing from north to south outside the magnet, and inside the magnet it will be from south to north. So as here they are coming outward, I mean from the top position of the pen, I'll mark it as a north pole and this is the south pole. Now assume, now place hold the pen in your right hand and place the uh, thumb to this direction, the direction shown in the video in this way. So if you place the pen and in your right hand in this particular direction, what you are observe is now the whatever the curl is there, that will be coming from the downside of the pen. So this particular portion will act as north pole and this portion will act as south pole. In this way, one can determine the magnetic field lines of magnetic flux lines when current direction is given. So this is nothing but right hand curl rule. Now let us try to understand the same thing with the help of a core. Assume this is a magnetic material, and around this magnetic material we have windings in this way. The current is entering from this point and it is leaving from this point. So the direction would be like this. Now use right hand curl rule and tell me the which is north pole and which is the south pole. Now apply the right hand curl rule. Now instead of taking current direction with your thumb, try to take, you can use right hand curl rule as in this fashion also. Curl represents current. If curl represents current, then thumb represents magnetic field. You can reverse it also. No problem will be there. But the main thing is you have to remember is only right hand must be used. This is the important thing. Right hand should be used. So here you represent your four fingers. Whatever the four fingers you have, uh, try to wound it around a pen and see where you are. Try to surround the pen as shown in this particular direction. And now try to observe where your thumb is pointing. Thumb will be pointing downwards, which means always thumb represents the north pole, because from here only the flux lines are emanating from that particular point and entering into the south pole. If this is not, then the opposite would be definitely south. So this is the one way, and the other way would be like assume this is another core, and now the winding is in this way. Now the current is entering from here. This is positive terminal and this is negative terminal. Now current is entering in this way. Now try to place your finger according to the direction of the current shown here. So if you place the four fingers of your right hand in this way around a pen, then the thumb will be directed upward, which means this is your north pole and this is your south pole. If that is north pole, then the flux lines would be emanating from that particular point to south point, and inside the magnet south to north. So this is how you can uh, identify or represent north and south pole using the right hand curl rule. Right hand curl rule can be used in two ways. Like if your thumb represents current, then the curl represents magnetic lines. If your curl represents current, then thumb represent magnetic field. Simply I can say it as vice versa. So that's about right hand curl rule. Before entering into the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, which is the main principle of transformer. Let us end this session here and we will continue in our next video. Thank you guys. Keep watching videos. Take care, guys. Bye.